It was a quiet afternoon, and Jake had just finished a long day at work. He was walking through the park near his apartment, hoping to clear his mind before heading home. The sun was starting to set, casting a warm golden light over the city. He was lost in his thoughts when he noticed a woman sitting on a bench near a fountain. She looked out of place. Her skin had an unusual, almost shimmering tone, pale, with a hint of blue. She wore a simple but elegant dress, the color a deep shade of teal that stood out against the surrounding greenery. But it wasn't just her appearance that caught Jake's attention. There was something about the way she carried herself, graceful, almost regal, like someone who didn't belong in a public park. Jake had always been someone who appreciated beauty, but this woman, there was something different about her, something otherworldly. As he walked by, he felt the urge to say something, even though he didn't know why. He didn't usually speak to strangers, especially not someone who seemed so different, but there was an unspoken invitation in her eyes, as if she welcomed him to approach. "Excuse me," Jake said hesitantly. "I don't mean to intrude, but you're really beautiful." The moment the words left his lips, he instantly regretted them. What kind of weird thing was that to say to a stranger? But before he could turn and walk away, the woman looked up at him, her eyes wide with surprise, then softening into something like curiosity. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she studied him as if she were trying to understand what he had just said. Jake stood there awkwardly, unsure of what to do. "Thank you," she said finally, her voice calm and melodic, as if she was learning how to speak his language. Jake was about to offer an apology for being so forward when she spoke again, this time her voice carrying a strange weight. "You are the first human to speak to me so kindly." She paused. "I am not used to hearing such words." Jake blinked, trying to make sense of what she had said. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I just thought you were, well, very beautiful." Her eyes shone with something he couldn't place, a mixture of awe and something deeper. She rose to her feet with a fluidity that seemed unnatural, like she was gliding rather than walking. "No," she said softly, "you have given me more than just a compliment. You have given me hope." Jake stood frozen, unsure of what she meant. He glanced around, half expecting someone to jump out and tell him this was some elaborate prank. But no one appeared. The park was as peaceful as ever. I didn't mean to do anything that important," he muttered, feeling embarrassed. "I just thought you were nice looking, that's all." The woman smiled, genuinely, it seemed, and for a moment, Jake felt like he was the only person in the world. "I am Princess Alira of the Trillion Empire," she said, her tone suddenly formal, as if she had just made an important announcement. Jake blinked in disbelief. Princess, Trillion Empire. His mind struggled to keep up with the information. This couldn't be real. She was just a strange woman in a park, right? But as her eyes locked with his, something told him this was far from normal. Jake stood there, staring at the woman in front of him. His mind raced as he tried to understand what she had just said. A princess. From some empire. This had to be a joke. There was no way this woman was who she claimed to be. But her calm demeanor and the way she spoke so confidently made Jake start to doubt his own thoughts. "Princess," he asked, his voice shaky. "Are you serious?" She nodded without hesitation. "Yes, I am Princess Alira of the Trillion Empire, far beyond the stars. My people are not of this world, but I have come here, for reasons I will explain later." She paused for a moment, her gaze softening. "But first, I must thank you again for your words." Jake's mind was spinning. "Wait, hold on," he said, raising a hand. "Are you telling me that you're from outer space, an alien?" Alira smiled slightly, though it didn't seem to reach her eyes. "Yes, I suppose the word alien is accurate, but I prefer traveler from another world. My people have visited Earth before, but I remain hidden, living in secret. This wasn't happening." Jake felt like he had stepped into a science fiction movie. His hands were shaking now, unsure of what to do or say next. "Okay," he said slowly, trying to process it all. "I'm still having a hard time believing you. But why are you telling me this? Why me?" She stepped closer, her presence filling the air with an energy he couldn't describe. "Because of what you said," she answered simply. "No one, not even those closest to me, has ever called me beautiful. And no one from your world has ever spoken to me with such kindness. It is rare, and it means more to me than you can imagine." Jake swallowed, unsure of how to react to this strange new reality. "So that's it. You just came here because I said something nice." She shook her head. "No, it is not that simple." She looked down, as if gathering her thoughts. "The people of my empire, they expect me to marry someone of my own kind, someone from my world. But I do not wish to follow tradition. I have always felt disconnected from them, from their rules and expectations." She looked up at him, her eyes searching. "You may not understand, but your words, they have made me see something different. You are kind. You are genuine. And in a world filled with so much coldness, that means everything to me." Jake didn't know what to say. This wasn't the type of situation he had ever imagined himself in. A princess from another planet, telling him that his simple compliment had somehow changed the course of her life. It felt surreal, like he had stepped into a dream that he didn't know how to wake up from. "I'm just a regular guy," he said quietly. "I didn't do anything special. I wasn't trying to, well, change anything for you." Alira's smile returned, but it was softer now, more thoughtful. "You did not change everything, but you gave me hope. Hope that things do not always have to follow the path set before us. Hope that there is more to life than following the rules. And that is why I wish to know you more, human. I wish to invite you into my world." Jake's heart raced. "Your world," he repeated, his voice still shaky. "You mean, like, meet your people?" "Yes," she answered, "but it is not as simple as you may think. There are many things you do not yet understand, but I promise I will explain everything. In time." Jake wasn't sure what to think, but there was something about her, something he couldn't deny. There was a mystery in her eyes, an intensity that made him feel like he was standing on the edge of something huge, something life-changing. "I don't know if I'm ready for all of that," he admitted. "I mean, this is a lot to take in." Alira nodded. "I understand. But you have already made the choice to speak to me. And that, in itself, is a step forward." Jake sat on the bench, trying to calm his racing thoughts. The park seemed quieter now, as if the world had slowed down to let him absorb everything that had just happened. Princess Alira stood beside him, her eyes still glowing with that strange, calming intensity. "I still can't believe this," Jake muttered, shaking his head. "You're really from another planet?" Alira nodded, her expression serious. "Yes, I've traveled far to reach Earth, and my people, well, they don't exactly approve of my decisions. I've always felt different from them." Jake glanced up at her, confused. "Different? But you're a princess. You've got everything. Why would you want to change that?" Alira sighed, looking away for a moment. "Being a princess is not what it seems. I have power, yes, but I am also bound by rules, traditions, and expectations. My life is not my own. I am supposed to marry someone of my own kind, someone chosen for me. But that is not the life I want. I want more." Jake didn't know what to say. He wasn't sure what she meant, but the way she spoke, so honest, so open, made him want to understand more. There was something real about her, something human, even though she came from a world so different from his own. "I don't know what you expect from me," Jake said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm just a guy. I mean, I don't think I could even." Alira's eyes softened as she placed a hand gently on his arm. "That's the thing, Jake. I don't need someone to be perfect or to meet every expectation. I need someone who sees me for who I truly am. Someone who won't judge me based on my title or my position. Someone who will love me for me." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. Was she saying what he thought she was saying? Are you saying you want me? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Alara smiled, a small, knowing smile. Yes, Jake, I want you. I want to marry you. Jake blinked, caught completely off guard. Wait, what? Marry me? The words didn't make sense in his mind. You don't even know me. I'm not. I know enough, Alara interrupted softly. You may not be from my world, but in a way that is exactly why I am drawn to you. You are genuine. You are not bound by the rules of my people. And that makes you special. Jake took a deep breath. This was unreal. He was being asked to marry an alien princess, someone from a galaxy far away. He felt like he was in the middle of a bizarre dream. But Alara, I'm just an ordinary guy. I don't know anything about your world, your people, or even how to live in a place like that. She placed her hand on his cheek, her touch warm and reassuring. I understand your doubts, but my world, my people, have never seen what you have to offer. You see beyond the surface. You see me as a person, not a title. That is why I want to be with you. Jake didn't know how to respond. He had always considered himself a regular guy, living the simple life, never imagining he'd be in a situation like this. But looking into Alira's eyes, something inside him stirred. A sense of curiosity, a sense of adventure. I can't promise I'll be perfect at this, Jake said slowly, but I'll try. Alira's smile grew, and she leaned in close, her voice soft. That is all I ask. Just try. The days that followed were a blur for Jake. He had never imagined his life would take such an unexpected turn. One moment he was just another guy walking through the park, and the next he was being swept into the world of an alien princess. His mind was constantly racing with questions, but Alira was patient with him, explaining things bit by bit. One afternoon, she took him to a quiet place away from the city. It was a secluded garden, hidden deep within the forest. The air smelled fresh, and the sound of birds echoed in the distance. Jake had never been here before. It was peaceful, calming, but at the same time, it felt like stepping into another world. Alara led him to a large stone bench by a beautiful fountain. She sat down gracefully, her eyes sparkling as she looked at Jake. I know this is all overwhelming for you, she said, her voice soft and gentle. But there are things I must show you, things you need to understand about my culture. Jake sat beside her, still trying to wrap his head around everything. I just don't get it, he said honestly. You're a princess. You've got everything you could possibly need, and now you want to marry a regular guy like me. Why? Alara looked at him with a slight smile, her expression thoughtful. Because, Jake, in my world, beauty and power are seen as everything. People marry for status, for alliances, but I've never wanted any of that. I've always felt that there's more to life than just following the rules set for me. Your words, your kindness, have opened my eyes to something I didn't even know I was missing. Jake nodded slowly, but there was still a part of him that was unsure. He had no idea what it meant to marry an alien princess. What was expected of him? What would happen if he said yes? Alara seemed to sense his hesitation. There are customs, she continued. Rituals, if you will, that my people expect me to follow before any union can take place. Jake raised an eyebrow. Rituals? Like what? Alira's smile widened slightly. It's a way for me to show that I am ready for marriage. It is not only about love, but also about proving commitment. It's something every royal must go through. Jake was still processing this. He couldn't believe he was even part of something like this. He had just complimented her, and now here he was, about to be involved in some alien tradition. So, what do I have to do? What's the ritual? Alara took a deep breath, as if preparing for something important. First, you must meet my people. You will have to prove yourself worthy of being with me, not just in their eyes, but in your own. The next step is a challenge, a test of endurance and loyalty. You will face trials that test your character, your strength, and your heart. Jake frowned. I'm not exactly built for challenges. I'm just a guy from Earth. You are more than you think, Alira said, her voice full of certainty. It is not about physical strength alone. It is about your will, your heart, and your ability to make decisions. I believe you have what it takes. Jake sighed, feeling the weight of the responsibility growing heavier with each passing moment. But there was something in Alira's eyes, something that made him believe her. Maybe he didn't understand her world, or even his own feelings completely, but he couldn't deny that he wanted to try. All right, he said, his voice steady. I'll do it. I'll face your rituals, your tests. I don't know what I'm getting into, but I'll try. Alira's eyes softened, and she reached out, taking his hand gently. That is all I ask, Jake. Just try. For the first time since he had met her, Jake felt a sense of calm. Whatever came next, he knew he wasn't facing it alone. And maybe, just maybe, that was all he needed to find the courage to move forward. The next few days felt like a whirlwind. Jake's life had been completely turned upside down. One moment, he was an ordinary guy going about his day. And the next, he was about to face alien courtship rituals, meet the royal family of an alien empire, and possibly marry a princess. He felt like he was in over his head, but somehow, he couldn't bring himself to walk away. Alira had become more than just the princess to him. She was kind, thoughtful, and when they spoke, there was a deep connection that he couldn't ignore. Yet, with every passing day, Jake's doubts grew. He was still just a regular guy from Earth. He didn't know the first thing about royal customs or alien cultures. What if he wasn't enough for her? What if he failed the rituals and let her down? One evening, as they sat together on a quiet balcony overlooking the stars, Jake decided to voice his concerns. Alira, I've been thinking, he started, his voice hesitant. This whole thing, I mean, it's insane. You're a princess from another planet. I'm just a guy who works a normal job. I'm not cut out for this. What if I can't live up to your people's expectations? What if I fail? Alira turned to him, her expression unreadable for a moment. Jake, she said softly, I've never expected you to be perfect. What I see in you is not your status or your accomplishments. I see your heart. That is what I want. That is what my people need to see. Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. But they don't know me. They don't know what I'm capable of. They're going to see a human, an outsider, and they won't believe that I'm worthy of you. Alira placed a hand on his, her touch comforting. That is why the rituals are important. They are not just for my people. They are for you too. They will show you who you really are, Jake. They will show you that you are more than just a man from Earth. You have strength, courage, and wisdom inside you that you have yet to see. And it is those qualities that I believe will carry us through. Jake looked into her eyes, trying to find the reassurance he was looking for. But it wasn't easy. His doubts still lingered, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to step into something he wasn't ready for. I don't want to disappoint you, he admitted, his voice low. You won't, she said, squeezing his hand. You already haven't. The fact that you're here, willing to try, shows me everything I need to know. For a moment, there was silence between them. Jake watched the stars twinkle in the sky, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He wanted to believe in himself, wanted to trust that he could do this for her, but everything was so new, so unfamiliar. And he was scared. I'm scared, Alira, he confessed, his voice breaking the silence. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm strong enough. Alira smiled softly, her expression full of understanding. Jake, fear is natural. But remember this. You are not alone in this. You have me. And together, we can face whatever comes our way. Jake looked at her, his heart swelling with emotion. He wasn't sure if he was ready for the trials ahead, but with Alira by his side, maybe he could find the courage to try. I'll do it, he said finally, his voice steady. I'll face the rituals. I'll face whatever your people throw at me. For you." Alira's eyes softened, and she leaned in to kiss him gently on the cheek. "That is all I ask, Jake. Just try, and together, we'll make it through." The next few days brought with them a sense of urgency. Alira had explained to Jake that the time for the courtship rituals was fast approaching. There was no turning back now. The rituals were an essential part of proving Jake's worthiness to the Trillion Empire and to Alira's people. It was not just about love. It was about honor, strength, and commitment. Jake had been preparing, mentally and physically. Alira had been helping him understand her culture, teaching him how to behave, what to say, and even how to dress. The alien customs were foreign to him, and he struggled at times, feeling like an outsider. But Alira was patient, guiding him through every step, and slowly he began to understand. One afternoon, they arrived at the royal palace, a massive structure of gleaming white stone and shimmering lights. Jake couldn't help but feel small in its presence. The palace was unlike anything he had ever seen. Grand, otherworldly, and filled with a sense of power. As they walked through the palace halls, Jake noticed the people staring at them. Their eyes were curious but cold, sizing him up as if he were some strange artifact they had never seen before. The Trillions were tall and elegant, their faces serious and proud. They didn't look like the kind of people who welcomed change easily. Alira could sense Jake's discomfort. "Don't worry," she whispered, giving his hand a reassuring squeeze. "They are just curious. They've never seen a human like you before." Jake nodded, but the unease in his chest wouldn't go away. The pressure of what was about to happen felt like a weight on his shoulders. He wasn't just representing himself. He was representing humanity. And if he failed, he would not only disappoint Alira, but he would let down an entire planet. When they reached the throne room, Jake felt his heart race. The large, imposing doors opened to reveal a group of alien dignitaries, all watching them. At the far end of the room sat a group of older Trillion royals, including Alira's father, the king. Alira turned to Jake, her expression serious. "This is it," she said softly. "The first trial begins now." The challenge was simple, in theory. Jake would have to answer a series of questions designed to test his wisdom, his ability to think quickly under pressure, and his understanding of the Trillion culture. The questions were not just about knowledge, but about character. The first question came from the king, his voice deep and commanding. "Tell us, human, what is the meaning of loyalty? Can you show us that you understand this concept?" Jake took a deep breath. He wasn't sure if he could answer the question in a way that would satisfy them, but he knew one thing for certain. He would answer honestly. "Loyalty," Jake began slowly, his voice steady, "is about standing by someone, no matter the cost. It's about trust, respect, and being there for the people you care about, through thick and thin. It's not about what you get in return. It's about doing the right thing, even when it's hard." There was silence in the room as the royals considered his answer. For a moment, Jake thought he might have said the wrong thing. But then the king nodded, a slight, approving smile tugging at his lips. "Interesting," the king said, his tone neutral. "You may have the loyalty of a human, but can you survive the trials that await you?" Jake felt a shiver run down his spine. This was just the beginning. He didn't know what else the tests would bring, but he knew they wouldn't be easy. Alira looked at him with a mixture of pride and concern. "You're doing well," she whispered, her voice full of encouragement. "Stay strong. You can do this." Jake nodded, trying to push aside the anxiety building in his chest. The first trial was over, but the hardest challenges were still ahead. He wasn't sure what would happen next, but one thing was clear: he was in this for the long haul. And no matter how difficult it got, he wouldn't back down. Jake's heart was pounding in his chest as he stood in front of the next challenge. He had made it through the first trial, but the atmosphere in the throne room had shifted. The air felt heavier now, and Jake could sense the tension building. This was no longer just about words, it was about action. Elira stood beside him, her presence a calming force, though Jake could see the worry in her eyes. She had told him this next trial would be the hardest. It wasn't just about proving his wisdom or knowledge. This trial was about showing courage. Courage in the face of fear. Courage to stand up for what was right, no matter the consequences. The room had transformed. Where once it was filled with dignitaries, now only a handful of royals remained, including her father, the king. A large circular arena had been set up in the center, with a single light shining down on it. In the middle of the arena was a large, terrifying creature. It was a beast, something Jake had never seen before. Its scales glistened like metal, its eyes glowed a menacing red, and its massive jaws were lined with sharp teeth. It growled low, a sound that vibrated in the air, sending a chill down Jake's spine. "What is that?" Jake whispered, his voice shaking. "That," Elira said softly, "is the Arkan beast. It is a creature that only the bravest of trillions have faced. If you wish to prove your courage, you must face it." Jake's throat went dry. "Wait, you want me to fight that thing?" Elira nodded, her eyes filled with concern but also with a flicker of hope. "Not fight it, necessarily. The test is not about defeating it, but about facing it. You must show that you can stand your ground in the face of danger, that you can overcome your fear." Jake swallowed hard. He had never been a fighter. He was a regular guy from Earth who had never faced anything like this before. He looked at Elira, seeing the faith she had in him. She believed he could do this. But did he? The king's voice boomed from the balcony above the arena. "Step forward, human. Show us your courage." Jake took a deep breath and slowly moved toward the arena. His legs felt like they were made of jelly, but he forced himself to keep moving. The Arkan beast's eyes locked onto him, and Jake felt a cold shiver run through his body. Every instinct told him to turn around and run, but he knew he couldn't. Not if he wanted to prove himself to Elira, to her people, and to himself. When he reached the center of the arena, he stopped. The beast snarled, its massive form looming over him. Jake's heart raced, and he could feel the sweat gathering on the back of his neck. This was it, the moment where he would either step up or fail. He took another deep breath and spoke. "I'm not here to fight you," he said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I'm here because I believe in something bigger than fear. I believe in standing up for what's right, even if it's scary. I believe in courage." For a moment, the Arkan beast remained still, its red eyes staring into Jake's. And then, to Jake's shock, the creature slowly lowered its head, as if recognizing the sincerity in his words. The room fell silent. Elira's father, the king, watched with keen interest, his expression unreadable. "Impressive," the king said finally. "The human has shown courage. He has passed this trial." Jake let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. The beast slowly retreated, and the tension in the room began to fade. Jake could hardly believe what had just happened. He hadn't fought the creature, but somehow he had earned its respect. Elira stepped forward, her eyes shining with pride. "You did it, Jake. You faced your fear and proved your courage." Jake looked at her, his chest swelling with a mixture of relief and pride. "I didn't think I could do it," he admitted. "But for you, I had to try." She smiled, her hand finding his once more. "And that's all I've ever asked. Just try." The trials were over, but Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing. His heart pounded in his chest as he stood in front of Elira's people, surrounded by the royals who had watched his every move. They had tested his courage, his strength, and his character. He had passed each trial, but now, the most important decision of his life was about to be made. Elira stood beside him, her expression calm yet filled with an unmistakable intensity. Her eyes never left him, and Jake could see the hope in them. It was strange how much his feelings for her had grown over the past few days. She had become more than just a princess to him. She had become someone he cared about deeply, someone who had made him see the world in a way he never thought possible. But now he had to make a choice, one that would change everything. The king's voice echoed through the room, deep and commanding. You have proven yourself, human. You have passed the trials set before you, but now we ask you to make the final decision. Will you join our people and marry our princess, Alira? Jake felt the weight of the moment sink in. This was it. The question that had been hanging over him since he first met Alira. Could he really do this? Could he marry someone from another world, leave everything behind, and step into a life he had never imagined? Alira's hand was warm in his, and he could feel the trust in her touch. She believed in him. She had given him the chance to prove himself, and now it was up to him to decide if he would accept this life. But the question that gnawed at him was whether he was ready for such a huge change. I don't know if I'm ready, Jake admitted, his voice quiet but honest. This is also overwhelming. I'm just a regular guy. I've never imagined something like this happening to me. But you've shown me a different way of seeing the world, and I'm not sure I can walk away from that. Alira's eyes softened, and she stepped closer to him. Jake, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know everything. All I want is for you to be yourself. I've seen the way you care for me, and that's enough. You've proven yourself in ways I never expected. You've shown me the courage to take risks, to love beyond boundaries. That's all I need. Jake looked around at the gathered royals, their eyes filled with curiosity and expectation. They had seen him face their trials, but now they were waiting for him to make the final decision. He could feel their eyes on him, weighing him, judging him. And in that moment, Jake realized something. This wasn't about impressing them. This wasn't about fitting into their world. It was about being true to himself and true to Alira. It was about the bond they had formed, the trust they had built. It was about taking the leap of faith. I'll do it, Jake said, his voice steady. I'll marry you, Alira. I'll take that leap. I don't know what the future holds, but I want to find out with you. I believe in us. Alira's face lit up with joy, her eyes sparkling as she pulled him into a tight embrace. You've made me the happiest princess in the galaxy, Jake. I promise we'll face whatever comes together. The king stepped forward, nodding approvingly. It is done then. The union between our worlds has begun. Jake stood there, holding Alira in his arms, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. The decision had been made. He wasn't sure what the future would bring, but one thing was certain. He had found something worth fighting for, something worth risking everything for. And with that, he stepped forward into a new life, by Alira's side, ready to face whatever challenges the universe would throw at them. The days following Jake's decision were a blur of excitement and uncertainty. He had chosen to marry Alira, and with that choice came the weight of responsibility. The people of the Trillion Empire were still watching, waiting to see how their union would unfold. But for Jake, the real challenge had just begun. He was no longer just a regular guy from Earth. He was now part of something much bigger, something that could change the course of both their worlds. Alira stood beside him every step of the way, offering her support, her love, and her guidance. She had given him the chance to prove himself, and now she was ready to take the next steps with him. Their bond had grown stronger with each passing day, and even though the challenges ahead were unknown, Jake felt a sense of peace in knowing they would face them together. One evening, after a long day of royal meetings and preparation, Alira and Jake sat together in the quiet garden where they had first talked about their future. The sky above them was clear, and the stars seemed brighter than ever. Alira had her hand resting on Jake's, and they both gazed up at the night sky, lost in their thoughts. You know, Jake began, his voice soft. I never thought I'd be here. I never thought I'd be on another planet, or about to marry an alien princess. This whole thing still feels like a dream. Alira smiled, her fingers gently tracing his hand. I know it's hard to believe, but I've always felt that there was something special about you, Jake. You showed me a different way of seeing the world, one that isn't bound by tradition or fear. I've never been so sure of anything in my life." Jake looked at her, his heart full. He had never expected to find love like this. It wasn't just about the adventure or the thrill of the unknown. It was about finding someone who truly understood him, someone who saw him for who he really was. Alira had opened his eyes to a whole new world, and in return, he had done the same for her. "I'm still scared," Jake admitted, his voice trembling slightly. "I don't know what's coming next, and I don't know if I'm ready for everything that comes with being married to you. But I know I want this. I want to be with you. I want to learn about your world, your people, and I want to stand by your side, no matter what." Alira's eyes softened, and she leaned in, her lips brushing his cheek in a gentle kiss. "That's all I ask, Jake, that you stay true to yourself. We don't know what the future holds, but we'll face it together. As long as we have each other, that's all that matters." Jake smiled, feeling the warmth spread through him. The uncertainty of the future still lingered, but it no longer felt as overwhelming. He had made the choice to be with Alira, and with that choice came a sense of purpose. No matter what came next, he knew they could face it together. As they sat there in the quiet garden, their hands entwined, Jake realized that this was just the beginning. A new chapter in his life was about to unfold, one filled with challenges, growth, and most importantly, love. Together, they would face whatever the universe had in store for them. And for the first time, Jake felt ready. The day had arrived. Jake stood in front of a grand hall, his heart pounding in his chest. He couldn't believe how far he had come. Just a few weeks ago, he was an ordinary guy living an ordinary life. Now he was about to marry an alien princess, something he never thought was even possible. The whole situation still felt surreal, but as he looked around at the guests, royal dignitaries from across the galaxy, his own friends who had somehow made it to this distant planet, he knew this was real. Alira stood beside him, radiating grace and beauty. She wore a dress unlike anything Jake had ever seen, the fabric shimmering in shades of blue and silver, moving like liquid light. Her pale blue skin glowed softly under the lights, and her small, elf-like ears added an almost otherworldly touch to her delicate features. She looked like something out of a dream, and Jake couldn't help but feel that, somehow, this was where he was meant to be. "Are you ready?" Alira asked softly, her voice full of warmth. She squeezed his hand gently, her eyes searching his for any signs of doubt. Jake smiled, though he still felt the weight of the moment. "I'm as ready as I'll ever be," he replied, his voice steady. "I've never done anything like this before, but for you, I'll do anything." Alira's eyes softened with affection, and she leaned in, her lips brushing against his cheek. "You've already done more than enough, Jake. You've proven yourself in ways I never thought possible. Today, we start a new chapter together." The ceremony was simple but beautiful. The royal hall was filled with flowers from different worlds, each bloom more extraordinary than the last. The air was filled with the soft sounds of alien music, and the guests whispered in awe at the union of two worlds, human and Trillian. Jake couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. This wasn't just about him and Alira. It was about bringing two cultures together, showing that love could cross the boundaries of space and time. The ceremony began, and the king stepped forward, his voice booming across the hall. "Today we witness the union of Princess Alira and Jake, the human who has proven his worth and shown the courage to face the unknown. May their love bring peace and unity to our worlds." Jake took a deep breath as he listened to the words. He never imagined he would hear anything like this, but here he was, about to marry the woman he loved, the woman who had opened his eyes to a universe beyond his imagination. When it was his turn to speak, Jake felt the weight of the moment once more. He looked out at the gathered crowd, his eyes meeting Alira's. Her gaze was full of love and trust, and in that moment, he knew that nothing else mattered. "I never thought I would be here, standing in front of so many, marrying someone as incredible as Alira. But here I am, and I couldn't be more grateful. Alara, you've changed my life in ways I never expected. You've shown me a new world, and I promise to stand by you, no matter what comes next. I love you." Alara smiled, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I love you too, Jake, and I will always be by your side. Together, we can face anything." The officiant, a wise elder from the Trillion Empire, nodded approvingly. "Then, by the power of the stars and the trust between you, I now pronounce you husband and wife." The hall erupted in applause, but Jake's world was focused solely on Alara. She stepped forward, taking his hand in hers, and they exchanged a soft kiss. A kiss that sealed their promise to each other. As the crowd cheered, Jake knew that this was only the beginning of their journey. They had overcome obstacles, faced fears, and proven that love could bridge the gap between two worlds. Now, hand in hand, they were ready to face whatever the future held. Together.